Good evening. Welcome to the
August 28th.
August 28th board meeting. Could you take us into roll?
Sure. Mr. Chumley,
Present.
Mr. Patton,
Present.
Mr. Rudy,
Present.
Mrs. Brinkman,
Present.
and we were notified that Mrs. Delaney will be absent tonight. And she's ill and hope she is getting better.
Thank you. We have reason to move into executive session for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee, and to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or student. I'll put that on the floor in the form of a motion and ask for a second.
Second.
Mrs. Brinkman, second? Okay. Mr. Chumley,
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
4 yes.
We will move into executive session and we will resume here at 7 o'clock. Welcome back to the August 28th board meeting. Mr. Amano, could you bring us out of
Yep.
executive session?
Mr. Chumley,
Present.
Mr. Patton,
Present.
Mr. Rudy,
Present.
Mrs. Brinkman.
Present.
4 present.
Would you all stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, section 4, the agenda.
So you would need a motion to adopt the agenda?
You've heard the recommendation to adopt the agenda. Can I ask for a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
4 yes.
5.01, recognition of the central enrollment team.
Good evening, members of the board. It is my honor to recognize 2 amazing people. I'd like Sarah Evans and Lisa Lawton to come up. So, while the rest of the world thinks schools are on vacation in the summer, these 2 individuals are working diligently to make sure all students are registered and they're ready for the first day of school. Another exciting thing is that they're the first face that many of our parents see as they move into West Clermont. So they bring their kids in and they're scared to let their kids go. They don't know what to expect. And so they're met with 2 great people who are excited, who are happy and welcoming them into our district. So I would like to have you all join me in giving them a round of applause for all their hard work.
David? Yes. I would also like to say, just on a side note, thank you guys so much. I've had the pleasure to work with you guys, having to re-roll one of my children, and then you guys did the National Night Out. You guys were there every night on all of the different nights, and so I appreciate you guys doing that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. 6.01, public speaking at board events. Looks like we have 1 speaker today. Those who are speaking to address the board are asked to state their name, address, school, or organization. Remarks must be addressed to the board and should be less than 3 minutes and to the point. You can offer such objective criticism or suggestions regarding school operations or programs. We will not hear personal complaints of school personnel or against any person connected with the school district unless these complaints have first been addressed through individuals, departments, or the administrations involved. Our speaker tonight is Jason Case. You can come to the podium. You can come to the podium here. State your name, address, and school or organization you wish to speak on, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Jason Case. I live at 6016 Georgia Circle, right here in Union Township. And I'm here to address the high school. This is our first experience with the high school as my daughter's come up to the freshman year. And maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't, but the cell phone policy that exists in the high school has been a little controversial, to say the least. But unfortunately, it's really fallen on deaf ears. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to be here tonight. I don't want to be addressing this before you guys. But the cell phone policy is one in which the kids come into the class, they must surrender their phones to the teachers, and they receive their phones back at the end of the class. Now, admittedly, I have absolutely no problem with having a stern cell phone policy. I don't want anything to be a distraction for our kids in the learning environment. However, this seems like a ridiculous policy to me, and also a safety issue for me. As just today, they had their ALICE training at the high school. And that ALICE training, the officer made very clear that the most important thing for students in an active shooter situation is the opportunity to communicate with the outside or with law enforcement if it's necessary. As part of that conversation, they stated that if the students are able to get away from the school, get away from the school. If they are injured wherever they may find themselves, to contact 911. My simple question is, how is a child to do that if they don't have a means by which to do it? Simple question. Again, I have absolutely no problem with having a stern policy in which those phones should not be visible to the teachers during that class time, and therefore consequences for actions that kids choose not to abide by the policy. But this just doesn't seem to make sense. It's an unnecessary risk if such instances arise. If there's a fire in the building, is everybody going to rush to the front to grab their phone? This just seems to not make any sense to me. And unfortunately, it's fallen on deaf ears with the high school specifically. While I don't want to be here, as I said, I do feel like it is a matter that needs to be brought before the board here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item 7, consent agenda.
Good evening, members of the board. In front of you is the personnel agenda for August 28th, 2023. On the agenda today, we have the resignation of 1 custodian and 1 full-time paraprofessional aide. This agenda includes the proposed hiring of 1 health clinic assistant, 5 full-time paraprofessional aides, and 2 computer technicians. As always, we encourage our staff to continue their education and professional learning, specifically at our local universities. As they earn credit and degrees, they have the ability to move up on pay scale. So included in this agenda is the salary adjustment for 7 teachers moving on that pay scale. The agenda also has approval for hiring of 6 student workers. We have the proposed approval of supplemental contracts for local professional development committees, master teacher committee, evaluation committee, multiple extracurricular activities and advisors, multiple band and dance positions, building leadership teams, home tutors, parking lot monitors, and Saturday school workers. Also included on this agenda is the proposed approval for multiple unpaid leaves of absence, multiple substitutes for this school year, and multiple school volunteers and student teachers. On this agenda, we have the request to change our approved FTEs. We are adding 6 paraprofessional aide FTEs to help support our special needs students, and an additional 10 paraprofessional aides specifically trained, or will be specifically trained as a registered behavior technician. Finally, in the work beyond the contract section of the proposed approval for payments of the following College Credit Plus instructors: IEP writing, CPI training, Discovery Course Development and Leadership, District and Enrollment Support, Spelling Bee Coordinator, Course Group Leaders, and New Teacher Orientation Participation. This concludes the review of the personnel agenda submission for your consideration. Thank you.
All right. Item 7.02, resolution for in lieu of transportation.
Chuck. Sorry to wake you.
I was waiting for you to approve his.
Oh, it's consent.
I have 2 things for you, 7.03 and 7.02. The 7.02 is resolution of in lieu transportation. That's where, as you know, some parents transport their children, especially private schools. And then 7.03 is approval of the 2023-24 bus routes. And as a postscript to that, I would like to let you know how happy we are with Peterman, because with the current construction issues with all the roads, it changes sometimes weekly. Peterman has done an amazing job in adjusting routes and trying to ensure that all children are home by 5 or shortly after 5. So it's been pretty much a seamless start in transportation, one in which we thought there'd be a myriad of problems this year, and knock on wood, so far they're not. So thank you for consideration on both.
Thank you. Thank you. Item 7.04, approval of disposition, sale of assets.
Good evening. That was placed on the agenda tonight for disposition of surplus assets. As you know, in the last 2 years, we replaced teacher laptops through the middle school and the high school. Mr. Souders over at the high school has been working for many years with a not-for-profit organization tracking, I believe they're eastern box turtles, in the eastern portion of the United States, and they've expanded that program. They're looking for our surplus devices to actually upgrade the devices that they use in that research, and our students have an opportunity to participate in that research under that program. So it's kind of a real-world learning environment for them, and it's a program that's been going on for many years. So we respectfully request the approval to sell those surplus assets at a fair market value that's been determined by pulling bids from other surplus equipment buyers. Thank you.
Is that the turtles to
Telemetry,
or something like that?
Yes.
Got it, thank you.
Item 7.06, overnight field trip request.
Good evening. This evening, I have 2 overnight field trips for your approval. 7.05 is seeking your approval for the high school band to participate in the Band of America competition that takes place in Louisville. The reason that they are requesting an overnight trip is because the competition starts around 7:30 in the morning, and so making the hour-and-a-half drive, plus they need to be there much earlier to set up and prepare. It just logistically would be really challenging for them to leave the morning of. The cost of the trip is $50 per student. The band boosters are offsetting the remainder of that cost, including any costs that would be required for chaperones to attend as well. 7.06 is seeking your approval for the West Clermont Middle School to take their annual trip to Washington, D.C. In your executive content, you would have seen an itinerary for the trip. It's a fairly standard trip with hitting all the highlights of all that Washington, D.C. has to offer our students. Did you not, was that not included in the,
Not in mine, it was not.
well, I'm not sure why it wasn't
The
in there.
executive piece of it, I mean,
Or maybe just in the regular content, potentially. Okay, sorry.
you confuse it, yeah.
So, in the public content. So, it is, the trip would leave on the 15th of May and would return on the 18th of May. That's after all required, like, state assessments, testing, all of those things would have concluded prior to the trip being taken. You can see the reason that we're seeking this approval so early is so that they can begin parent meetings, sharing information with families, and they can allow for families, to have basically the whole year to understand the trip, to pay for the trip, and they also have scholarships that the PTO helps to provide for any students who may be in financial need. Any questions? Great, thank you so much.
I fortunately got to go the year I was retired in 2013, and it was a wonderful trip. I had never done all that stuff. I'd been to DC, but I learned so much.
Yeah, it's exhausting, but it definitely is very
Very
educational.
cool, yeah.
We're pleased to have the opportunity to offer it to our
Yes.
students.
Thank you. Item 7.07,
Okay,
7.08, approval of minutes.
Item 7.07 is the request for the approval of the minutes. That is for the July 6th regular meeting. And item 7.08 is a request for approval of the minutes for the August 14th regular meeting. Item 7.09 is request for approval of the donations. And if you'll bear with me, I'd just like to recognize and read these quickly. The first is from Stuart G. Lugenbull, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Post is donating $200 per month to Summerside Elementary to be used for miscellaneous meeting expenses. Office Depot donated $1,367.28 to Summerside Elementary to purchase copy paper. Forest Hills Nursing Home donated school supplies at Willowville Elementary for use in the classroom. Summerside PTO donated $9,054.18 to Summerside Elementary for conscious discipline speaker and classroom materials. The Office Depot donated 498 luggage tags for student backpacks and 50 cloth Office Depot bags for students at Merwin Elementary. Beachmont Subaru donated 3 boxes of school supplies and $3,000 for student supplies to West Clermont Middle School. Glen Estate Church of Christ donated 18 backpacks with school supplies to Withamsville Tabasco Elementary for students in need. Withamsville Tabasco PTO donated staff breakfast for opening day at Withamsville Tabasco Elementary. The Home Depot donated school supplies, cleaning products, hand sanitizer, and paper towels to Withamsville Tabasco Elementary. Connect Christian Church donated coffee bar and supplies to keep in stock all year. And lounge decor to Withamsville Tabasco Elementary. And Withamsville Tabasco PTO donated Travelin' Tom's Coffee Truck for staff appreciation at that elementary school. That was item 7.09, request for the board to approve donations. Item 7.10 is the recommendation to approve the tuition rates for fiscal year 23-24 as presented. Those tuition rates are actually calculated for all 600-plus school districts in the state by the Department of Education. The two different rates are one for out-of-state kindergarten, or grades 1 through 12 and out-of-state kindergarten. The second one is for the half-day preschool for in-state and for in-state kindergarten. The rates that are listed really identify the gross state amount. It identifies the state aid that gets backed off, and then the net rate for Ohio residents. Those rates are used in case there's agreements between the school districts or other entities to educate the kids, whether it's in-state or out-of-state. Item 7.11 is establishing the insurance premium rates for the health, drug, and dental benefits through a self-insurance program. That becomes effective January 1st of 2024. Those rates are the rates that are listed. The good news is the rates didn't go up as high as expected. It was about 1% less, so the rates are around 6%. And then our dental insurance, in fact, has went down for this coming year. So those are rates that will be in effect for the calendar year, January 1 through December 31st of 2024. And then again, our premiums are shared with our employee groups on an 84-16% split. So those will be the rates, or those, it's requested that those rates be approved for the year starting January 1st, 2024. Item 7.12 is the request for approval of purpose and budget statements for 23-24. There are two requests. Both of those are for the Uniform School Supply Funds, both for the high school, one for the Spanish student activity account and one for the French student activity account. Item 7.13 is a recommended approval of financial statements, the bills paid, list of investments for July, for the period ending July 31st, 2023, as presented and listed. So the consent agenda lists items 7.01 through 7.13 as presented.
You've heard the recommendation. May I ask for a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any questions?
I did have a question regarding the tuition, just to clarify. The first section of this document has grades 1 through 12 and out-of-state kindergarten. That would be applicable if we had open enrollment, correct?
Yes, and or if there was agreements between districts, but yes. Because with the new fair school funding in-state, it's on a attendance basis, so whether they're in district or out of district in Ohio.
So their money
Reflected.
doesn't follow the student any longer.
Correct.
We get the local state aid, and then we have the families or the parents then supplement the rest, correct?
So if a student comes from a neighboring school district,
Yep.
then they're just included in our enrollment. And the way the formula works, okay, we may or may not get additional revenue depending if we're on the guarantee or off the guarantee. So for this current school year, it is unknown. Ohio Legislative Services did calculate that we may be off the guarantee, but until we see that calculation in October, and right now it's stated that we won't see that until October, we're unsure if we would get additional revenue from the state for that.
Gotcha. And this
Okay.
is a state.
That's
payment
within
schedule.
state,
Got it,
yeah,
got it.
okay?
Thank you.
It's a good question.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Romano?
And if I'm correct, Mr. Rudy
Yes.
moved and Mr. Patton seconded. Okay. Mr. Rudy,
Yes.
Mr. Patton,
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman,
Yes.
Mr. Chumley,
Yes.
4 yes. Thank you.
All right, superintendent's business. Mr. Superintendent?
Let's turn this on, you get the presentation up, Dan.
Yeah, let me get you up there, hold on. There you go, and then I just need to click on it. Go back one. There you go.
See if we're working. Not working. I turned it on.
She did.
Sorry.
Well, then you just
You do my
nod, you
clicker.
just nod and I'll do it.
Good evening. Let me first say that I am giving the Cliff Notes version of this, because there's no way I can step in the shoes and give you a presentation like Natasha would, but I will do the best I can. This is our 4th roadmap report already. And with the roadmap report, the information that you see here is not going to be new. It's what we've talked about through the spring, through the summer, but it is a collection of data, feedback, call to action to all of our stakeholders to help us as we move forward. This year is going to be a very important year, as we talked about before, with some of the things that we're going to be facing as a district and as the board. We know the world's changing. Looking at the town halls that we've had and the student journey map, we know that we have to change as well. So as you look at this report, you're going to see data that was collected from student safety, well-being, engagement, modern student learning designs, and student pathways. A lot of the data on the next slide, you're going to see where it comes from. And one of the things about West Clermont, you'll notice, we're very transparent. We collect a lot of data, and we hit a lot of stakeholder groups. And as you go on to the next slide, Dan, when you look at this, and you guys have a copy of this in your executive summary if you take a look at that as well. But when you look at the stakeholders that we listen to and we talk about voice, one of the things that Tasha is very passionate about is being transparent and to listen to all our stakeholders. And when you look at the groups that we've looked at, the different focus groups, the focus groups that we've talked with students, parents, and staff, 41 different focus groups that we've looked at. The town halls, we've had 8 town halls already. We've got more town halls coming up. We've got another one coming up in Clough in September, which will end our student journey map, and then we'll start to transition into the next areas, which is going to be design and purpose. It's going to be facilities. It's going to be things as we move forward. We do a lot with our thought exchange. Our Q12, we had over 796 of our staff members contribute to our Q12, which goes into our retention, which goes into what David and Christy are working with. And it was an amazing turnout for that. And 796 put us over 93% of our staff took a survey. Any survey you get that is reliable data, and so that we were able to do that. Our student voice as well, we've had focus groups for that. You've seen some student voice come to our board meetings, which is always a highlight when they come in and you see what they're doing at the building level. And our continued partnerships, our PI event, our alumni events, all the different things that we do to collect data. And I think it's award-winning. I think it's the best practice of any district that I've been a part of. But again, it's what is it for? It's developing a culture of community engagement. And so when you develop a culture of community engagement, it's not a one-time fix. It's not a 1 year. It happens over 3, 4, 5 years, and it's continual. And one of the things that we've continued to do is look at what impacts our students, what impacts our community, what impacts our staff, and we're going to spend a lot of time with our impact teams and our DLTs, which is all of our administrators, We'll be meeting once or twice a month, and the different impact teams that are going to be focused on the areas that are identified and the feedback that we do get from our stakeholders. And so I think in developing culture is one of the most important things that we do. But again, it's voice, student voice, parent voice, community voice. Those are the things that we have to focus in on. I've always said better in a pack than alone. And when you try it alone, then you can't get to where you want to be. So we've embraced that, and we've continued that as we move forward. This is a new school year. Sixth graders that are seniors this year, class of 2024, the first class to go through is Wolves. Started in the middle school as a Wolf, went all the way through. So that's kind of a new era, that's kind of a new. I was fortunate to be with the first class that went through as their principal, the 4 years, but now we've added in the middle school as well. And I think that's something to celebrate as well. Current realities and things that we look at, we know that the federal funding will be expiring. The onward and upward that we identified before will be, that plan will be going by the wayside, and we have to make preparations for that to continue the programs that we added that we needed to. And I think Dan and the administrative team have done a really good job. When you move over to the next section, this isn't new because this was a part that we talked about. Chuck and I talked to you about this as well. And that is aging buildings, increased enrollment, limited space, and modern learning environments what we want. And so we know with the increased enrollment and the space, we saw the diagram, you saw the chart of when we're going to be out of space, and we got some tough decisions as we move down the road. Looking at our current facilities, on how we want to move forward with the current facilities, being in that role now, it's something it's a day-to-day thing. And you know, we're always with Chuck. I'm dread looking at my text some days in the morning at 6 o'clock to make sure that everything's working. But we know that if we want that modern learning environment, student-centered environment for our kids, we're going to have to look at our facilities, and that's going to be a part of what we do in the fall. I think that's one of the most important things that we'll be doing. We'll be coming to the board to talk about the different options that we do have as far as moving forward. We like to think of 2030 of getting there and what it will be like, because we have to plan ahead. And we're going to spend a lot of time doing that in the fall and throughout this year. And it's going to be more than this year. It's going to be over the next few years. David has talked about our staff and staff force challenges, is what I call it, and the workforce challenges that we do have. And in this report, we'll kind of see exactly where our people are going. And I think it's one of the percentages that really stood out to me. The number of teachers getting out of the profession is increasing. And I think that's a scary thing for us, because people are opting to go into a different profession. Didn't happen 20 years ago, but now we're losing people to that. We're losing people to salary, but it's being more competitive. And it's not that we have bad salary. Our salary is right below the mean with our benefits above the mean. So it's not that. It's just that it's a much more competitive workforce out there, or workforce opportunities that we're competing against. And that's in just about every business, and you guys know that as well. But those are the things that we have to look at. Those are the things that David and Christy are working with. Retention, keeping people here. That goes back to bringing the feedback in. Those Q12 we'll do again in November, and then we'll do it again in February, so that we could get a gauge of where our teachers are and where our staff. It's not just teachers, it's all staff. And we want to try to keep our people, because we do a great job going out and recruiting, and we want to keep them here. So those are the things that we're facing. As I said, those are the things that we're going to be looking at as we move forward. Some of those things will be part of, our CAC. We had our first meeting last week, and one of the things that with our CAC is looking at our current state and looking at what we want for our students, our design, our purpose, and also looking at our modern learning environments. And we had a really good representation come in, and to just get us started. Ellie did a great job getting us moving forward. Ryan was there as well, and I think it's something that is going to be great data for them to bring back. And so our impact teams will then also be presenting to our CAC because they are also aligned with that as well. So I think moving forward, tough challenges. There are some tough challenges ahead for the district and some of those things as we mentioned before. But I think we're ready to go with that. Again, we have a lot of opportunities for engagement with our CAC, but then also, like I said, our town halls will be switching gears from our student journey map and moving forward with that as we have town halls that will then be at Holly Hill, Merwin, and in January at West Clermont Middle School. So we'll be moving that. Our next town hall, for all those that are listening, next town hall is at Clough Pike, 6 o'clock, September 28th. And that will be our final student journey map, same as we did in April. And we'll have one more of those, and then we'll be switching gears a little bit. As we continue to move forward, again, more call to action with our PTO and PTSO and booster organizations. Natasha will be meeting with them quarterly as well. And again, it's to build the network around us. It's to build that call to action that we need all hands on deck as these decisions that we have to make over the next few years and next months. We need as much feedback and we need as much input from our community, our parents, our students, so that we're able to make the right decisions. And I think that's obviously going to be very, very important for us. Our West Clermont Education Foundation continue to support our staff. I just put out another opportunity for scholarships for our teachers for classroom supplies from the foundation. So they have the opportunity as well, but they continue to support what we do in the classroom. Our Business Advisory Council is another area that I'm involved with as well. And we'll continue with our BAC. And we do have those quarterly. We're also working with Hamilton County. ESC is there beginning the Workforce Innovation Network. And so we're going to be looking at that as well. And I know a lot in Clermont County, at the superintendent's meeting that I attended the other day, that they made a presentation. And again, just another resource for our students and for our staff as we move more toward the workforce. And then other opportunities we have with our PI events and things that we have. There's a lot that's happened over the last 3 to 4 months with our administrative team helping define Portrait of a Graduate. We were able to bring out Portrait of a Graduate 2.0, which gives us a little bit more direction, our ways of working we've worked with, our theory of action we've worked in the buildings. And so I think that there's a lot of movement forward with that, and to really get a clear vision, get a clear mission of what our expectations are. Without the expectations, we don't know what direction we're going. So defining those and helping our staff will only help us as we move to our Portrait of a Graduate and what we expect with our Portrait of a Graduate. As I said, the stakeholder engagement focus is like I said, I think is a best practice. We get a lot of data, and we use the data to help us make the hard decisions that we have to make. And we continue to do that. Safety was obviously is a big focus point for us, and we'll continue that. I want people to think we're not going to be thinking about safety, because safety is always going to be a priority for us here. But I think that the other piece of the puzzle is going to be, as we start to move our board meetings monthly, to start looking at the facilities, and we start that tour, which will start September 11th at the middle school. And so we will be doing that with tours, and we'll be publicizing that so that people can take a look. And it's not just the bad, but it's also going to be things that we can celebrate as well. And so we have some really fantastic facilities, and we have some facilities that are challenging, and we know that. And it's something that we have to continue to look at and make those decisions as we move forward. But we'll continue with our REACT surveys. We'll continue with our town halls. We'll continue with our state of the schools, our roadmap reports, to keep people informed and up to date on the things that are happening in the district. And that's my best Cliff Note version I could do.
Excellent job.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any comments? Any additional comments, I should say?
No, thank you for allowing me to participate.
Very good. Treasurer's business?
So item 9.01, just to inform the board and kind of recognize the treasurer's staff, is the Association of School Business Officials International Data Award, the district the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for the report that was done on fiscal year '22 that was released earlier this year. So we always submit for that program just to make sure that we are performing at the best of our ability as far as financial reporting. So I commend our staff in the office to do that. Actually, the whole administrative staff has a part in getting that document done. Comments under 9.02. We did receive our real estate settlement this month in August. We're just in the process of making sure that estimated revenues for the property taxes are in line there. Coming up in September, we are putting together now the appropriation measure for fiscal year 23, or for fiscal year 24. As you'll recall, in June, we just did a temporary appropriation measure to start us off. And so we do the full appropriation measure in September, so that will be coming. Hopefully in September, end of September, beginning of October, we'll know more about the property values, and we'll also know more about our foundation payment, which are, that's the majority of our revenue in the school district, those two pieces, as we go through. Just also an invitation, Friday, September 1st, the district has a health fair at the high school from 9 to 2. Board members, if you have time to attend that, please do that. We basically have about 30 of our partners that will be there, and a lot of different activities for the staff and for the board to engage with. Last comments are, it was without skipping any beats that 2 people filled in to the spots this evening, without a lot of notice, so good job there. And to the other board members who helped through that whole process, I think the meeting went well. And 2 other comments, Mrs. Brickman, thanks for the immediate action right before the board meeting. It's nice to see that all of a sudden when somebody identifies that something is not right, you stepped right up to the plate, and it was great to have you there doing that. Thank you for doing that. I'm sure other comments too, but we want to, wish Mrs. Delaney a little speedy recovery. That's all my comments.
Thank you. Board comments. Mr. Patton?
I'll be brief. I do want to, again, commend the central enrollment team today for recognizing that, again, they do a phenomenal job. I do appreciate what they do. And I just hope everyone's having a great start to the year. Hope there's not been too many hiccups and everybody's having a great start.
Mr. Rudy?
I want to also give wishes to Mrs. Delaney for a speedy recovery. Miss her, and I hope things will get better. I myself am having a great school year. Sounds like West Clermont is too. I'm happy to be back, except for the getting up early part. You'd think in 40 years I'd be used to it, and I'm still not.
I think we would, we also need to extend our well wishes to Mrs. Adams, who's obviously not here with us tonight. Hope she also feels better. The words of our guest speaker, has kind of resonated with me. Would you circle back with the building to make sure that our messaging is very clear? I understand the need for the cell phone policy. Having students gone through West Clermont, I know that they will have their phone in their pocket and they're over here doing this when they should be focusing ahead. I think that there needs to be policies. I think there needs to be consequences for breaking the policies. But at the same time, we can't host a ALICE presentation and give them instruction to call for help if we don't allow them the means to call for help. So could you circle back with them?
Sure.
Just to make sure that we have concrete and clear messaging?
Yeah,
And that we're doing
absolutely.
the right thing at the right time for the right
Yep.
reasons. Thank you.
You bet.
And that's all.
Yeah, thank you for coming out. It's always good when the community comes and brings their things to the table. So, thank you for joining tonight. Our next meeting will be at the
Middle school.
middle school,
September 11th.
September 11th, 7 o'clock. And we'll have a bingo game before then, so who dey. Thank you for coming out tonight. Could you, do we have?
Need a motion to
Any
adjourn?
reason for executive session?
We do not.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Roll call.
Yes.
Mrs. Brinkman?
Yes.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
4 yes. We're adjourned.